Okay, uh, today I'm gonna talk about how to write the results for multiple regression, how to write a report for a multiple regression result. So this is the output. Uh, the software I use to analyze this data is JASP. And to give you a bit of a background regarding the problem, um, here we have a couple of predictors, namely duration, sex, forgiveness, assets, recreations, friends, and these predictors are considered as forms of investment. And in the problem, it is hypothesized that investments influence voice. So, voice is a construct that um, that represent um, active and constructive behaviors of individuals when they are confronted with a problematic romantic relationship. So, an example of behavior, just to put it into context, that would be characterized as voice would be talking to your partner, trying to um, trying to improve the condition of your romantic relationship by actively engaging with your partner and trying to look for solutions, perhaps even some compromise. So that is voice. And theoretically, um, people would vary in terms of displaying voice. Some people are less active and more destructive in dealing with romantic relationships. So we want to know if a certain set of predictors can determine individuals who are more likely to engage in voice. And theoretically, it was noted that those who have, in a way, a lot of stake in the relationship are those who are more likely to engage in voice. And when I say a lot of stake, we mean to say that those who have more investments would likely engage more in voice. And these are just some examples of possible investments you have in a relationship. Certainly, the longer you are in the relationship, the more that's investment. Having sexual intercourse could also be a form of investment. Forgiving past transgressions can also be a form of investment. Having shared assets is an investment. Shared recreations, common friends, those are all forms of investment. So, in multiple regression, we want to know the collective impact of all of these predictors on the dependent or the outcome variable, and such collective impact uh, is shown in these two tables. And we also want to know the um, individual unique contributions of each of the predictor variables. Okay, so this is the result. So you can see here which of the predictors significantly contribute to the outcome variable. Collectively, the model is also significant. Okay. So our task now is to write a decent report, um, for this particular outcome. And I have instructed my students to follow a simple outline. So I asked my students to indicate the following in their report. So I wanted them to remind the readers of the objective of the study, the hypothesis. Uh, I want them to remind the readers of the statistical technique used, um, the result of the model summary, um, variance explained, significance of such. I want them to report unique contributions of individual predictors, and finally, I want them to report a layman's uh, meaning or interpretation of the results. I ask my students to try to write the report on their own. and our job now is to take a look at what they have submitted and um, try to improve what they have submitted. Okay, so let me fix this first. Okay, what happened? Okay, so this is what one of my students submitted. So let's try to improve her report. Okay, so first let's take a look. So I emphasized that I wanted them to write the objective of the study. So let's see. A study was conducted to determine how several factors affect an individual's likelihood to respond with voice. Okay, which is defined within the study as an active and constructive response to relationship dissatisfaction. Okay. So how can we improve this? One, maybe we can remove the definition. Maybe we can use that later on when we interpret the results. So let me delete it for the meantime. And then we want to be more specific. Um, so let's be more specific here. As the study was conducted, um, a study was conducted to determine if um, various forms of investments um, can influence individuals um, individuals likelihood to respond with voice when confronted with relationship problems. Okay, now of course there are many ways to say it, and perhaps perhaps you can think of a more better way to express it, but our goal here is to to write something that is relatively acceptable. It doesn't have to be really perfect. Okay. um I wouldn't use the article a study was conducted. um students must understand that even if these are exercises, they have to think of the problem as their own research. So maybe instead of maybe we can just say this study was conducted to determine if various forms of investments can influence individuals' likelihood to respond with voice when confronted with a relationship problem. Okay, and then I asked them to identify the hypothesis. So this is what she wrote. The hypothesis is that voice can be predicted by, okay, the 6 factors. One, I have a problem here because this is a passive uh, voice. We want to be more active um, when we write our report. Okay, so maybe I can restate this as it was hypothesized that, and then maybe I can um, identify what are the predictors that um, rate duration of the duration, sex, forgiveness, shared assets. What else? Shared recreational activities and having common friends. And then of course you have to specify the direction. Will positively predict the use of voice. Okay. All right. Maybe you can be more specific for these particular terms. Maybe you can say forgiveness of past transgressions, having sexual intercourse, transgressions. Okay, maybe you can be more specific. All right, so we have stated the objective, and then we have reminded the readers of the hypothesis. We now will state we will now remind them of the statistical technique we used. So she said the thesis hypothesis multiple regression analysis is used. Okay, or was used. All right. And then she said results show a significant effect on voice. Okay, so how do we simplify this? Okay, so this basically talks about the model summary, and I guess what is important in the model summary is to be able to express how much of the variance in the outcome variable can be predicted by the predictors. Okay, so maybe that's just how you should say it, no? So you can say result shows that now in here she used r squared. Let's double check, but I would prefer if you use the adjusted r squared, because this accounts for, or this is a better estimation of what happens in the population. So instead of 16.3, which is the percentage equivalent of this value, I'm gonna say 14.1. Results show that 14.1% of the variation, or of the variance in voice, can be accounted for by the 6 predictors collectively. And then I'm gonna put the test of significance. So is that significantly different from 0? The answer is yes. So this is the expression. Where did we get this from? We got this from our ANOVA table. So let's double check. So the F ratio is 7.547. Yes, the degrees of freedom are 6 and 233. Yes, and the p-value is less than 0.001. All right, so this is accurate. Oh, sorry. Okay, so this is the result of the model summary. Okay, sorry about that. And then after the model summary, let's take a look at the individual contributions. Okay, so this is how she reported it. I think what she did was to sort of create a formula, uh, a linear equation um, for the model. However, I really don't find this very valuable, and you wouldn't find um, journal articles in social sciences that reports the regression results this way. Um, what is important is to be able to identify which of the predictors significantly contributes to the outcome variables, and what is the direction of their contribution. Are they contributing positively, or are they contributing negatively? So let's take a look at the result. So the variables that predicted it is sex. Um, now sex is represented only by two categories, which is um, one for um, for for those who have already had sexual intercourse, and zero for those who haven't. So forgiveness also positively predicts, recreation also positively predicts, and having common friends also positively predicts. Having shared assets and as well as the duration are not significant predictors after controlling for the other variables. Okay. Um, so maybe I can begin with forgiveness, recreation, and friends, because um, you know we can they have an influence on the outcome variable in a similar manner. All of them are positively contributing, but there's slightly a different way to express the impact of sex, given that sex is a categorical variable, and the categories are yes, had sexual intercourse, and no, haven't had sexual intercourse. So okay. um so I'm gonna say, looking at the unique individual contributions of the predictors, um, the result shows that what's that again? I'm gonna talk about forgiveness, recreation, and friends. Results show that forgiveness, um, shared recreation, shared recreations, and common friends positively predict voice. Okay. um and then we can insert relevant statistics. For this, what we need is what we need is the beta weights. So let's just use this one. So we need the beta, and then we also need the t value, okay, and then the p value. Okay. All right. So for forgiveness, the beta weight is 167. So b equals 0.167. That shouldn't be italicized. Oops, sorry. And then the value of t is 2.743 for forgiveness. 2.743. Okay, and then the p-value is 0.007. P equals 0.007. So the only notations italicized here is or it's only the notations that you have to italicize, not the values. Okay. All right. And then let's just copy this, and we'll just replace the values later on. Okay. Common friends. Okay. So for shared recreations, let's change the values. The beta weight is 217.217. 217. The t value is 3.408. 3.408, and the p value is less than 0.001. So less than 0.001. And then finally, for common friends, the beta weight is 0.181. And then the t value is 2.877. And then the p value is 0.004. Okay. All right. So these three factors all positively predict voice, and that's why we can express them in the same sentence. Now what about sex? Now given that sex is dichotomous, and we assigned 1 for people who said that they have had sex, and 0 for those who have not, and because our coefficient is positive, that means to say that those which we assigned as the higher value, those who have had sex, are more likely to report voice. Okay, so that is how we should express it. So we should say, furthermore, result also reveals that those who have engaged in sexual intercourse also are also more likely to report the use of voice. Okay, and then we can again report the statistics. So the beta weight is 0.165. The t value is 2.703, and the p value is 0.007. All right, so the same. Okay, let us not italicize these. Where else? Okay, so we are now what about those who did not, or the predictors that did not significantly contribute? One, you can say that they did not significantly contribute, or you can just not mention them. So the last important part of our result is the meaning. So you can say, what did our student say? This suggests that couples who engage in similar recreation activities, share common friends, have a history of forgiving each other, and have engaged in intercourse actively find solutions to save relationships with their partner. And you know what? This is good. So we're gonna use this. Um, hmm, this one is also true, but maybe, just for it to be more simple, maybe we should remove this. Okay, so there you have it. Uh, our multiple regression report. Let's try to read and see if there are things that we can still improve. So it reads, this study was conducted to determine if various forms of investments can influence individuals' likelihood to respond with voice when confronted with relationship problems. It was hypothesized that during that duration of the relationship, maybe we can put an article there, that the relationship, the duration of the relationship, having sexual intercourse, forgiveness of past transgressions, shared assets, shared recreation activities, and having common friends will positively predict the use of voice. To test this hypothesis, multiple regression analysis was used. Results show that 14.1% of the variance in voice can be accounted for by the six predictors collectively. Looking at the unique individual contributions of the predictors, the result shows that forgiveness, shared recreations, and common friends positively predict voice. Furthermore, result also reveals that those who have engaged in sexual intercourse are also more likely to report the use of voice. This suggests that couples who have engaged in similar recreational activities, share common friends, have a history of forgiving each other, um, and have engaged in intercourse actively find solutions to save the relationship of their partner. Okay, so you will notice that I did not use the term voice. Instead, I use the or my student used the meaning, or the definition of voice, which is a good technique when you're writing the meaning of the result, which is to avoid using exactly the terms or the names of the variables, but instead, you can utilize what they mean, so that it would be would make more sense to people who are reading your report and doesn't really know much about statistics, no, and the variables themselves. And the predictors are pretty much self-explanatory. Having similar recreational activities, having common friends, forgiving each other. So, because the danger, yeah, oftentimes in this last part is that you're just sort of restating your results, but what we want is something more, something that is more, meaningful, something that is more, less robotic, no, and more sort of describing uh, a certain phenomenon. All right, so that's it for writing a multiple regression result, report rather. I hope that you learned something.